Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Reason to Leave by Melissa Ellen. Narrated by Tim Paige and Madeleine Dauer. Prologue. Liam Stone. I stared at her bruised face as she sat across the table from me, looking on edge, void of all emotion, refusing to speak first. As much as I wanted to blame her for my being here, I couldn't. It was my own fucking fault. Not that I regretted it. I'd do it again. The bastard fucking deserved it. I'd dreamt of doing it for years, and despite landing myself here, it was worth it. I'm not bailing you out. She broke the silence between us, glancing at the handcuffs locked around my wrists. I didn't ask you to, I sneered. Well, just so we're clear, you're on your own. You shouldn't have come back. You should have minded your own damn business. Of course. Why would I ever expect her to thank me? Or, I don't know, defend my actions against her asshole of a husband? She was right. I shouldn't have shown back up. For some reason, I thought she needed saving. I was stupid for thinking I could do just that. She obviously didn't want to be saved, and she obviously didn't want me. She was choosing him. Again. When you get out, stay away. Don't come back. I don't need you screwing things up for me. Screwing things up for you? I didn't think that was possible. I glared at her. She slid her gaze from me momentarily. I mean it. Stay away. A deep hate manifested inside me. I didn't think it was possible for me to ever hate anyone this much, let alone her. But I was done. Done fucking trying to be there for her, trying to help give her a better life. She was on her own. If she ended up dead, I'd no longer feel guilty. I tried. Fuck her and her fucking prick husband. I leaned my forearms on the table, angling my upper body forward, letting my eyes penetrate hers, the hate and anger radiating off me. She shifted uncomfortably, but her stupid pride kept her from taking her eyes off me. Don't bother ever coming to see me again. You stay out of my fucking life. I'll stay out of yours, I promised her. You're dead to me. She flinched with my words and her face dropped. I had no idea why. I was giving her what she asked for. The hardness returned to her face instantly. I didn't wait for her response. I turned my head, nodding at the guard that I was ready to return to my cell. I was finished with this conversation. Finished with her.
1. Keys. Jim will take you. Keys, Rhett, I demanded again, with my palm out, wagging my impatient fingers at my overbearing, slightly obnoxious, arrogant but still lovable older brother. He gave me his determined stare, not relinquishing the keys he was holding hostage in his hand. If I thought I had a chance of overpowering him and forcefully removing them from his clutches, I'd have gone for it. He was trying my patience. I was going to be late for my audition if he didn't give them to me in the next few minutes. Ava already said I could borrow the car. I didn't. It's her car. I crossed my arms over my chest. We're married. It's our car. I don't have time for this, Rhett. I'm going to be late. Give me the keys. I tried swiping them from him, resisting the urge to stomp my feet in frustration like a spoiled brat. Because I was not a spoiled brat. At least I was doing my best these days to not be a spoiled brat. I was now a mature adult who was making a name for herself. Give her the keys, babe, Ava said, coming to my rescue as she waddled into the room dressed for work. I loved my sister-in-law. For the most part, she always teamed up with me against my difficult brother, because she knew how it was to be on this side of his overprotective and frustrating demands. He kissed her temple as she made it to his side, then wrapped his arm around her waist, resting his palm on her growing belly as he pulled her into him. How did you sleep? He asked her, fondly staring down at her. The two of them were sickening, but still, it warmed my heart watching them interact. I'd never admit that out loud, though. Terrible, she said, with a disgruntled look. I'd say I'm looking forward to this baby being out of me so I can have a good night's rest, but I know that won't be the case. I may never have a good night's sleep again. I'll make sure you do. You aren't doing this alone. Oh, really? Did you grow breasts overnight so you can do night feedings? She asked sarcastically. Point taken. He chuckled, kissing her head. We'll figure something out. He turned her in his arms as he nuzzled her neck and loved on her some more. I crinkled my nose. Yuck. Hello, still here, still need the keys, I reminded them, wanting to get out of here before their PDA became more than I could handle. He turned back to me, annoyed by my interruption. Not a dent, he warned. Got it. Not a scratch. Got it. Give me the keys. I tried swiping them from his hand one more time, missing them, again, as he dangled them above my head, just out of my reach. Not even a dirt smudge. Seriously? I huffed. He smirked. Rhett. Ava rolled her eyes at him. Just give Val the keys. I'm sure she'll take good care of it. Tell that to her first 2 cars, he muttered. Hey, that's so unfair. Neither one of those incidents was my fault. He looked at me unconvinced, shaking his head in disbelief. They weren't, I pouted. It was true. They were so not my fault. It was not my fault a squirrel decided to dash out in front of my car unexpectedly. I had to swerve to miss the fear-stricken mama squirrel, or her babies would have grown up as orphans. And I, for one, wouldn't have been able to live with myself knowing that. I mean, who would? It was also not my fault I had to hit a parked car to miss the poor, desperate little squirrel. Who parks their car on a residential street anyway, when there was a perfectly empty driveway to park in? You're just asking for your car to get sideswiped. And this time around, my car was only in the shop because some old man, who definitely should not be driving, backed into me. Never mind I was parked in a no parking zone. That was just semantics. He hit me. I mean it, Val. Anything happens to this car, you'll force me to take your driving privileges away, Rhett threatened. You can't do that. I'm an adult. I'm 21, I said, firmly, standing my ground. His threat didn't scare me. Well, maybe a little. He was an unfairly determined bastard. He cocked his disapproving eyebrow at me. Almost 21, and try me. My birthday is only a few days away. I'm basically 21, and you can't take my driving privileges away. Right, Ava? I turned to her for support. She shrugged her shoulders, being no help at all. Thanks a lot. Whatever. Just give me the keys already. You're making me late for my audition. If I miss another one, my agent is going to drop me. He gave me one more warning look as he reluctantly placed the keys in my hand. Be careful. Car aside, I don't want to see anything happen to you. Thanks. I stood on my tiptoes to give him a peck on his cheek. And I will, I said, rushing out of their Malibu home. Don't forget, dinner with Mom and Dad on Sunday for your birthday, he yelled after me as I hurried toward the front door. I won't. I waved as I darted out the door before he changed his mind and tackled me for the keys. I cruised down the Pacific Coast Highway, headed back into LA for my audition. I drove only slightly over the speed limit, hoping it would be enough to get me there on time. I wasn't kidding about my agent being on the verge of dropping me. She'd already warned me if I missed this one, she was no longer wasting her time on me. She only had time for clients who were going to take their acting seriously. As if I wasn't. I knew she, like many who knew my last name and where I come from, thought I was just a spoiled rich girl living off daddy's money. Never mind I'd been busting my butt the last few years to make it on my own. Besides letting my parents take care of my tuition and the cost of the expensive apartment my brother had forced me to live in, I'd been covering all my own expenses by working as a barista in a local coffee shop, the same job that was consistently making me miss or be late to auditions. It was a classic catch-22 situation. I did all this while taking on a full load at school year-round in an attempt to graduate early and kickstart my acting career, without the help of my family's connections, I might add. I wanted my career to be built on my talent, not my name. This was the first summer I hadn't signed up for summer courses. I only had 1 semester left this fall before I graduated. This summer, I planned to have some fun and focus on auditions. I rarely touched my trust fund. Only in emergencies did I dip into it. Those emergencies were usually car-related, buying a new one or repairing it, like now. My car was in the body shop, getting repaired where the old man had T-boned me. So not my fault. Once I moved to California, I tried my best to hide my upbringing from people. I know that sounds terrible. I know that sounds ungrateful. I'm not. I love my family. I appreciate everything they've done and still do for me. The problem was, all that wealth came with a certain stigma. People judged you before even knowing you. They also tended to use you to make themselves look better and boost their own social standing. I was done being used. I was done trusting that people wanted to be friends with me for me, or that guys would love me for me. I'd learned the hard way I couldn't trust people as long as they thought they could gain something from my name. Hence why I downplayed who I was. A Blackwood, the daughter of 2 of New York's wealthiest socialites, Charles and Vivian Blackwood, and sister to the famed young CEO of Blackwood Industries, Rhett Blackwood. There was only one person I confided in about my upbringing after moving from New York, my roommate, Lexi. We'd originally met working together at the coffee shop, Sweet Beans. We hit it off, and she became my closest friend and only confidant besides Ava. I didn't tell her about my family right away. I actually hid it from her as long as I could. But once she became my roommate, there was no other way to explain how I could afford my luxurious apartment on a minimum wage salary, or why she didn't need to pay me for rent. She paid me what she could anyway. That was the type of person she was. She didn't feel right living rent-free. She was my one true friend. She was confused by my secrecy at first, until I explained what I'd gone through my senior year of high school and the summer that followed. I'd tried to put it out of my mind, but it still hurt me deeply. Deeply enough for me to lose trust in everyone besides my own family, and now, Lexi. I glanced at the clock on the car dash and began to relax as I got closer to Interstate 10. I was actually going to make it on time. Finally, something was going right for me. Boom. What the hell was that? Oh no, no, please no. I started to panic as the car began vibrating and tugged to the right. You have to be kidding me. I slowed the car, pulling over on the highway shoulder. I opened the driver's door cautiously and stepped out of the car to investigate the situation. I walked around to the passenger side and saw a deflated front tire that looked more like a smashed chocolate donut. Shit. Damn it. Shit. Expletives ran through my head out of habit. Rhett had always been quick to lecture me about verbalizing profanity. I never quite understood his hang-up about it. He once told me I was too pure at heart and beautiful of a girl to use such language. Whatever the hell that meant. Now what? I pulled out my phone, staring at it. Who am I going to call? I bit the corner of my bottom lip as I thought. There was no way I was calling Rhett. I'd never hear the end of it. And this was definitely not my fault. Lexi was covering my shift today so I could make the audition, which meant she wouldn't be able to help me out either. Crud. Dang it. Stupid, crappy tire, I huffed, kicking the deflated puddle of rubber. Those are some fiery words. I nearly jumped out of my skin hearing the deep, gruff voice that came from behind me. I think you might have hurt its feelings. I rotated, throwing my hands on my hips and glaring at the source of the amused voice. I hadn't even heard or seen anyone approach, due to being too distracted by my current dilemma. I was ready to fire off my smartass retort when I was struck by the vision of him. My words got trapped in my throat as my eyes swept up his muscular body that was hugged by worn jeans sitting on a lean waist. His form-fitting black t-shirt did a poor job of concealing his chiseled chest and revealed strong biceps that were accentuated with the black ink of a tribal tattoo peeking out from his sleeve. As my eyes traveled north, it only got better. His square jaw was lined with stubble, his eyes a beautiful, crisp gray, and his hair a messy, dirty blonde. I instantly pictured myself running my fingers through that hair and holding on tight. My core clenched at the thought as my tummy fluttered. I made myself focus on his eyes, trying to curb the unfamiliar urges taking over my body. His eyes were doing their own inspection of me, and when they met mine, they temporarily widened with recognition, then narrowed into a seething glare as they glanced between me and Ava's fancy black Bentley GT. What the hell is his problem? I wondered if maybe he recognized who I was. It didn't happen as often in California as it did on the East Coast, but it did happen occasionally. He didn't seem like the type to keep up with tabloids, though, with his bad boy vibe. Also, most people didn't glare at me with distaste when they realized who I was. Their eyes normally lit up with their own greedy intentions. His body went rigid as I continued to hold his gaze. "Can I help you?" I spit out, annoyed by his disapproving look. "Help me? It looks like you're the one in need of some help," he huffed as he glanced at my flat tire, crossing those strong arms across his rock-hard chest. "Well, are you going to help me, or did you just stop to taunt me?" I crossed my own arms across my ample chest, suddenly feeling the need to shield myself as his eyes continued to scan my figure. I normally boasted my body. I knew I was attractive, and I took pleasure in knowing I could get what I wanted from most men with a sway of my hips. I rarely use the tactic, though. "Are you asking for help, princess?" Princess? Asshole? Now I understood his loathing. He'd already pinned me as a spoiled rich girl. There's no denying I came from money, but he didn't even know me. Typical. "No," I said defiantly, suddenly not wanting his help, even if I needed it. "Really?" he snorted, amused. "You sure about that?" I opened my mouth to tell him exactly where he could go, to hell, but before I could respond, my cell phone rang, interrupting me. I glanced down at the phone and groaned. Shit. "Hi, Donna." I tried sounding cheerful to my bitch of an agent while turning my back on the cocky, sexy jerk who still had his judging eyes on me. "Valerie, where the hell are you?" "I've had a bit of car trouble." "Of course you did." I could picture her rolling her eyes through the phone. "You missed another audition. We're done." "Wait, Donna, you can't. I was on my way there when I got a flat tire. This was not my fault." "It never is, Valerie," she sighed. "You need to find a new agent." "But—" "Goodbye, Valerie, and good luck." With that, she hung up on me. "Ugh!" I growled, releasing my frustration. I glared at the phone in my hands, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do now. "Should I leave you to fume alone, or do you want my help? I have places to be." I flicked my eyes back to the sexy asshole standing in front of me, ready to take out all my anger and frustration on him. Although his words were harsh, his face suddenly seemed less so after witnessing my call. Obviously, he felt sorry for me. I didn't want his pity, but I did need his help. I was sure someone else would have stopped to help me, but I didn't want to wait for that to happen, in case it didn't. "Yes," I mumbled under my breath, hating to admit to this infuriating man I needed his help. He smirked. "What was that, princess?" Again with the princess. Put your pride aside, Val. "Yes, will you please help me?" I forced out through my clenched teeth. He smiled in satisfaction as he stepped toward the car. "Pop your trunk. I assume you have a spare?" "I'm not sure." He looked at me quizzically. "It's not my car," I said, moving to open the trunk for him. This seemed to surprise him, but he didn't comment on it. I opened the trunk and leaned against the side of the car near the flattened tire as I watched him work efficiently. It was a warm summer day, and between the sun beating down on me and watching his muscles flex as he worked, I was feeling slightly overheated. Despite him being a jerk, he was hot. There was something about this brooding bad boy that had my insides fizzling. He wasn't like the refined boys I'd dated in the past. And I say boys because compared to him, they were boys. "What's your name?" "Liam," he responded without looking up at me. He didn't bother asking me mine either. Okay. Obviously, this was going to be a one-sided conversation. "Well, Liam, what do you do?" He didn't respond, just shook his head with a smirk as he finished tightening the last bolt on the spare tire. I huffed with annoyance at his dismissal of my question. He stood and gathered up the tools and the damaged tire, putting everything back in the vehicle. I walked around to the back of the car as he closed the lid of the trunk. He grasped the hem of his shirt, wiping his hands on it, then lifting the bottom to wipe the sweat off his face, exposing the washboard abs hidden below. I had to fight to keep from fanning myself. The things I wanted to do to those abs. Lick them, for one. Whoa, calm down, Val. Where the hell did that come from? I heard his cocky chuckle, causing me to rip my eyes from his abs to his smirking face. It was too late to hide my shameless gawking, so I gave him a shrug with one of my shoulders, pretending to be unimpressed. I was definitely impressed. My body was definitely impressed too, feeling all needy and greedy. I leaned against the trunk, letting it support my weakening knees. "You'll need to get the spare replaced as soon as possible. Don't drive on it for long. It's a temporary fix." I nodded my head in understanding, still spellbound by his abs. He watched me for a minute, as if wanting to say more. I glanced at his lips, hoping he would. Then, suddenly, I hoped he wouldn't. Instead, I preferred his mouth silent and on me. I'd never wanted to be kissed by a man so badly. He was only a foot from me. If I lifted my hand, I could touch his defined body. I was like a fish being baited. He seemed all yummy and delicious, but he was bad news. He was reeling me in, and I was falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Sensing my desperation, he leaned forward, his hands resting on the trunk of the car, trapping me between his strong forearms, his face inches from mine. My lips parted as I took in a small breath of air. His eyes darkened, transfixed. He leaned in, placing his face beside mine. "I'm not your knight in shining armor, princess." His whispering breath brushed my ear. That masculine voice was soft and sultry, causing me to forget myself and ignore his warning. He said it as if he was not only trying to convince me, but also himself. My core throbbed. I felt lightheaded from the thought of feeling him pressed against me. "I'm not a princess," I countered, my response coming out breathy and needy. He pulled back, dragging his eyes over me before connecting with mine. "Yes, you are." He delivered each word slowly and deliberately before moving away from me. I exhaled the breath I'd unknowingly been holding. He gave me another once-over, shook his head, then got back in his car and disappeared. Just like that. Leaving me desperate, pissed, and alone. Jerk. 2. I walked into Sweet Beans, dropping my bag on the stool next to me as I flopped onto my own stool at the coffee bar across from Lexi. I crossed my arms on the counter and buried my head in them, blocking out the world. Life sucked. "Audition go bad?" Lexi asked. "I wouldn't know. I didn't make it." I grunted out through the muffling of my arms, not bothering to expose my face to her. When she didn't respond, I was forced to lift it. Lexi was a pixie-like girl with thin, dark hair and brown eyes. But don't let her tiny figure fool you. She was tough, a rocker chick with a diamond stud nose piercing, tattoos, mostly concealed by her clothes or her mid-length hair, and an attitude to match. She was a walking contradiction. She was outwardly beautiful, yet rough around the edges, genuine and sweet, yet far from prim and proper. She was as loyal and feisty as they came, and protective of her friends to a fault. One of the reasons I loved her so much. If you stood the two of us next to each other, based on our outward appearances, you'd never guess we were friends. Ava loved her instantly. Rhett, on the other hand, demanded she go through a background check, regardless of the fact that I'd already known her for a year before she moved in with me. I was afraid she'd run for the hills, but she was unbothered by my brother's demands and took it in stride. In the end, she'd found a place in his heart, and he could be just as protective of her as he was of me. "So you're saying I worked your shift for nothing?" She put her hands on her hips, cocking her head down at me. "Pretty much. Sorry." I gave her my best don't hate me pouty lip. "What happened?" She sighed, releasing her arms, shaking her head as she grabbed a rag to wipe down the bar top. "Flat tire, broody jerk, the norm," I said, feeling defeated by the day, though it was barely halfway over. She gave me a sympathetic smile. "You have the worst luck with cars. Maybe you should take your brother up on his offer of giving you a personal driver. You might actually make an audition, and it'd give us a DD for when we went out," she teased. "No way." She laughed. "Okay, so tell me about the broody jerk." She leaned forward with her forearms on the bar, flashing a big smile and inquisitive eyes at me. "I at least need to know something was worth me picking up this extra shift for you." "Not much to tell. He was just a jerk who changed my tire," I replied, not looking directly at her, trying to keep my cheeks from flushing as I remembered his voice, lips, and firm, sweaty abs. "What a jerky thing to do," she said sarcastically. "You know you're a horrible liar, right? Never play poker." "What do you mean?" She glanced at my finger, which now had my thick, golden, and dark brown hair twisted around it. When did I do that? "Anytime you're lying, you play with your hair." "I do not." "Shit, do I?" I would have to be more aware of that in the future. "You so do. Plus, your cheeks are bright red right now." "It's hot outside." "Right." "Quit being a jerk and get me a water." "Ouch, you're being bossy. He really got your expensive panties in a wad, didn't he?" "No, he didn't get anywhere near my panties." "So that's the problem. You wanted him to." She goaded me some more, a grin spreading across her face as she began to laugh again. I responded to her accurate guess by flipping her off. She laughed harder. "Okay, what did he do then?" "He called me a princess." "Oh no," she said, pretending to be flabbergasted, throwing her hand over her gaping mouth. "Not princess, the nerve." "You can be such a bitch sometimes, Lex," I huffed. She continued to laugh. "It wasn't just that he called me princess, it was how he said it, and the way he looked at me, as if I wasn't worth his time." She stopped laughing and looked at me, remorseful. Sorry, Val.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?